Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
Have you ever thought about why you can remember some things so clearly, but then other things just totally disappear?
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It's almost like our brains are choosing what's important to keep and what's okay to forget.
Well, that's kind of what we're looking at today. There was this really cool study about how memories are actually formed.
Okay, so is this saying it's not just like hitting the record button and everything's there?
It's way more complicated than that.
Okay, so walk me through this. What's really going on in our brains?
So basically, there are these two parts of your brain that are kind of always fighting over what we remember.
Like a memory battle going on in our heads.
Exactly.
Okay, so who are the fighters in this battle?
Okay, so one of them is called the ventral tegmental area.
Catchy name.
It's the part that gets all excited when something good happens, like when you get a reward or something.
So that's like the feel-good part of my brain.
You got it. And the other one is the locus coeruleus, which is all about noticing when things are new or different.
So one part loves the good stuff, and the other's always looking for something new. What do they have to do with memories?
Well, they both send signals to this other part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is like the memory HQ.
So it's like a little meeting room where they're
Yeah.
both trying to convince the hippocampus what to remember.
Yeah, kinda.
All right, I'm definitely intrigued now. How did they even figure this out?
So these researchers in Germany, they did this thing called optogenetics.
Opto what?
Optogenetics. Basically, they figured out how to control certain brain cells using light.
Whoa, hold on.
Ah.
They can turn brain cells on and off with light. That's wild.
It's pretty crazy, right? And this way they could see what happened in the hippocampus when they messed with the ventral tegmental area and the locus coeruleus.
So they were like shining a light on the memory process itself.
Yep, and what they found was pretty awesome.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me.
Okay, so when they turned on the ventral tegmental area, all the connections in the hippocampus got stronger.
So like the good feeling part was saying, hey, this is important, remember this.
And that process of making the connections stronger, that's called long-term potentiation.
Okay, so that's how we form those really strong memories.
Exactly. But then get this, when they turned on the locus coeruleus, the connections actually got weaker.
Really? I thought strong connections were always good.
Yeah, but it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes we need to update our memories. Like when we learn something new that changes what we thought we knew.
So it's like editing our memories.
Exactly. That weakening process, it's called long-term depression.
Long-term potentiation and long-term depression.
Got it. And the crazy thing is, when they turned on both of them at the same time, it got even weirder.
How so?
It all depended on how strong the signals were. Sometimes one would win out over the other.
So it's like they're in this constant tug of war over which memories are important.
It's this dynamic back and forth, and it determines what we end up remembering.
Wow, okay, that's super interesting. But we're talking about what's happening in the brain at like a microscopic level, right? Did they actually see how this affects real behavior?
Yeah, so they tested it out with rats.
Rats.
Yeah, they're really good at remembering things, especially where things are in space. So they use this thing called a whole board maze, which is like a box with a bunch of holes in the floor.
Okay, so they put the rats in this maze, and what?
Well, in one test, they let the rats explore this brand new empty maze, but they turned off the ventral tegmental area.
So they took away their feel-good memory-making part.
Right. And guess what? The rats couldn't remember where anything was. It was like they couldn't form a map in their minds.
Oh, wow. So the ventral tegmental area is essential for learning about new places.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
We need to remember where things are to find our way around. Then they did another test where they took rats who already knew the maze, and then they changed it up a little bit, they added some new stuff to the holes.
Okay, so they were testing if the rats could update their mental map.
Exactly. And this time they turned off the locus coeruleus.
So they took away their ability to edit their memories.
And yep, you guessed it. The rats couldn't adjust to the changes at all. They were stuck with the old version of the maze in their heads.
So the locus coeruleus is key for adapting to change. That makes so much sense. Okay, this is seriously blowing my mind.
Yeah.
I had no idea that so much was going on in our brains just to form a simple memory.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
There's more.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more to unpack here. This research raises some really big questions about how we understand memory and how it shapes who we are.
Ooh, I like where this is going. So what else did they discover? And what does this all mean for us?
Stick around, folks. We'll be right back to delve even deeper into this incredible research.
Okay, so we're back and ready to keep going down this memory rabbit hole. This is really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about how memories work.
It's definitely a game changer. This whole idea that our memories aren't just these perfect snapshots of the past is pretty wild.
Right, like it's more like our brains are constantly editing and curating our memories, choosing what to keep and what to toss out.
Exactly. And this study really highlights how these two brain regions, the ventral tegmental area and the locus coeruleus, they're like the directors of this whole memory editing process.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think that our memories aren't these objective truths, but actually more like interpretations shaped by our own brain's biases.
Yeah, that's a really important point. But we do have to remember that all of this research was done on rats.
Oh, right, good point.
Yeah.
Rats aren't exactly known for having complex human-like memories.
Yeah, so we can't just assume that everything we're seeing in rats applies directly to humans, but it definitely gives us some really exciting directions for future research.
Okay, so what are some of the big questions that this research opens up?
Well, imagine if we could actually use this knowledge about the ventral tegmental area and the locus coeruleus to improve memory in humans.
Like, could we develop some kind of brain-boosting technology that helps us remember things better?
Potentially, yeah. If we could figure out how to increase the activity in the ventral tegmental area while someone is learning something, it could really make those memories stronger and longer lasting.
So it's like giving our brains a supercharged save button.
Exactly. And then on the flip side, understanding how the locus coeruleus works could help us develop new treatments for conditions like PTSD or anxiety, where people are struggling with intrusive memories.
So instead of being haunted by those unwanted memories, we could potentially use this knowledge to kind of edit or mute those experiences.
Yeah, that's the idea. We could create therapies that help people process those traumatic memories in a healthier way.
This is all starting to sound like science fiction, but it's amazing to think that we might actually be able to do these things someday. It could totally revolutionize how we learn, remember, and even heal from trauma.
Absolutely. But even beyond the practical applications, this research also raises some really profound questions about the nature of memory itself.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, if our memories are so easily influenced, can we ever really trust them as accurate representations of the past?
Whoa, yeah, that's a big one. It's making me wonder if our memories are more like stories that we tell ourselves, stories that can change and evolve over time.
That's a great way to put it, because memory isn't just about storing information, it's also about creating meaning.
So it's not just about what happened, but also how we make sense of it, how we fit it into our understanding of the world.
Exactly. And that meaning-making process is very personal and subjective. What's a super vivid memory for one person might be completely forgettable for someone else.
So we're each carrying around our own unique version of reality based on the memories we've chosen to hold on to.
Right. And that leads to another question. If our memories are so fluid and subjective, how do we make sure that we're not distorting the past, especially when it comes to things like eyewitness testimony or historical accounts?
Oh, wow, yeah, that's huge. If our memories are so easily swayed, how can we ever be sure that we're getting the full, unbiased truth about something?
That's why it's so important to consider different perspectives and to compare our memories to other sources of information.
So it's like we need to piece together the full picture by gathering evidence from different sources, not just relying on our own individual memories.
Right. And it's also important to remember that memory isn't static. It's always changing and evolving as we encounter new information, revisit old experiences, and even as our own beliefs and perspectives shift.
So our memories are more like living, breathing things constantly growing and adapting rather than just these fixed images in our minds.
Exactly. This research really highlights the dynamic nature of memory and how it shapes who we are throughout our lives.
This has been an absolutely incredible journey into the world of memory. We've learned about the amazing interplay between different parts of the brain and how that shapes the memories we hold on to. So what can we take away from all of this? How can we use this knowledge to improve our own memories and maybe even live more fulfilling lives?
Well, one of the big things is that we need to pay attention, like really pay attention.
Okay, so like put away my phone, close my laptop, and just focus.
Yeah, exactly, because that locus coeruleus, that part of the brain that's always looking for what's new and interesting, that's what helps us focus.
So if I want to remember something, I really need to be in the moment and engaged with it.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to try new things.
New things.
Yeah, like new experiences, new ideas, new places. It keeps your brain active and helps it adapt.
So like travel, learn a language,
Yeah.
take up a new hobby, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And another thing is to think about What really gets you excited to the things that you find rewarding?
Because that's what the ventral tegmental area loves.
Yep. So if you can connect what you're learning or experiencing
Hmm.
to something that you really enjoy, you're way more likely to remember it.
So like make learning fun, turn it into a game, or find a study buddy who's into the same things.
And don't forget about emotions.
Emotions.
Yeah, you know how you tend to remember things better when they're tied to strong emotions?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, that's because those emotionally charged experiences create more vivid and lasting memories.
So it's not just about the facts. It's about how those facts make us feel.
And lastly, be kind to your memories.
What do you mean?
Well, remember that they're not perfect recordings. They're more like fluid interpretations of the past.
So don't stress about remembering every little detail.
Right. Just focus on the overall experience, the emotions you felt, and the meaning you've created around it.
So it's okay if my memories are a little fuzzy sometimes.
Exactly. Embrace the imperfections. Our memories are what make us unique. And even those hazy, fragmented memories, they add to the richness of our lives.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive into the science of memory.
We've learned about how different parts of our brain work together to shape the memories we hold on to.
And we've also gotten some really great tips on how to improve our memories and maybe even use this knowledge to live more meaningful lives.
So next time you're lost in a memory, take a moment to think about all the amazing things happening in your brain to make that memory come alive.
And remember, our memories are ours to shape, cherish, and learn from.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of memory.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing and those memories flowing.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.